Good day, folks. We're diving into the impact of U.S. political and economic moves on everyday Canadians. This isn't just about trade deals and tariffs. It's about how these actions are affecting the mental health and well-being of an entire nation. The U.S., under the Trump administration, has been turning up the heat on Canada with aggressive rhetoric and tariffs. Imagine your buddy, the one who always borrows your lawnmower, suddenly starts claiming your backyard as his own. Not cool, right? These actions have real-world consequences, impacting jobs, businesses, and the overall sense of security for folks from coast to coast. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about the very real human cost of these political decisions. The stress, the anxiety, the fear of the unknown, it takes a toll. We're talking about a full-blown mental health crisis brewing north of the border. Canadians are reporting increased anxiety, depression, and a sense of hopelessness. The constant barrage of negative rhetoric and feeling of isolation adds up. We'll explore the strategies Canadians are using to fight back and build resilience in the face of adversity. Let's break down the playbook being used here. First up, you've got the classic Trump tactic rhetoric. This isn't just political trash talk. This is about messing with a nation's identity. Canada has spent a long time defining itself as distinct from the US, especially in healthcare and social values. When someone like Trump dismisses their sovereignty, it triggers something primal. Next up in the US playbook, economic warfare. The weapon of choice? Tariffs on Canadian goods like steel, aluminum, and even maple syrup. The real goal is to weaken Canada's economy and force them to make concessions. The impact is already being felt with job losses and businesses shutting down. It's not just about the immediate economic pain, it's the uncertainty that really gets to you. Section 3. The Silent Treatment Allies MIA. Many of Canada's traditional allies, like the UK and the EU, have been strangely quiet. Canada is left in a weird diplomatic limbo, facing down a superpower without much backup. That feeling of isolation is a real blow, especially for a country that prides itself on international cooperation. It's a recipe for resentment, disillusionment, and a whole lot of national soul-searching. Section 1. The psychology of sovereignty, more than just lines on a map. Sovereignty isn't just about borders and flags, it's about the feeling of being in control of your own destiny. These threats to Canadian sovereignty are potent because they chip away at the belief in your own agency as a nation. When people feel like their identity is under attack, they react defensively, becoming more insular and suspicious of outsiders. Section 2. Identity under siege when being Canadian feels threatened. Canadians have always defined themselves by what they are not, especially in contrast to Americans. For groups that have historically struggled for recognition within Canada, like Indigenous communities, the anxiety is amplified. When someone challenges your core sense of self, it triggers a cascade of negative emotions: fear, anger, anxiety. The ripple effect, from individuals to communities. A nation uneasy. This sense of unease seeps into everything, affecting work, relationships, and the ability to enjoy life. Small towns that rely on cross-border trade are struggling to survive. The social fabric starts to fray, and trust erodes. This collective anxiety takes a toll on a nation's psyche, making it harder to address real challenges. The job drain, from uncertainty to unemployment lines. Tariffs have real-world consequences for people who rely on those industries to put food on the table. Thousands of jobs are lost or at risk in manufacturing, agriculture, and forestry. The psychological toll of long-term unemployment is a recipe for despair, playing out in communities across Canada. The price tag of uncertainty, when everyday expenses become a luxury. Rising prices on everything from imported produce to construction materials are hard to ignore. For Canadians already living paycheck to paycheck, this constant increase in the cost of living is a recipe for disaster. It's the feeling that no matter how hard you work, you're constantly falling behind. Section 3. Main Street on Edge small businesses caught in the crossfire. Small businesses are getting hit from all sides, with tariffs making it more expensive to import materials or export goods. The result? Small businesses are closing their doors, laying off employees, or barely scraping by. These businesses are more than just places of commerce. They're part of the social fabric. A Section 4. Beyond the balance sheet, the human cost of economic instability. The real story here is about people bearing the brunt of decisions made far removed from their daily lives. The impact goes beyond dollars and cents. It's the stress, anxiety, and fear that takes a toll. Behind every statistic, there are real people with real lives, real hopes, and real dreams. Section 1. The Anxious Nation. Living in a state of what if. The mental health crisis in Canada is fueled by constant uncertainty and pressure. Chronic stress wears you down, making it harder to focus, sleep, and enjoy life. Canadians are resilient, but this constant barrage of uncertainty is testing everyone. It's creating a climate of fear and distrust, affecting our national consciousness. The weight of uncertainty when financial stress becomes emotional distress. Now, some folks might say, hey, it's just money. You can't put a price tag on happiness. Financial stress seeps into every aspect of your life. It casts a shadow over even the simplest pleasures. Imagine skipping your annual family camping trip, or telling your kids they can't join their favorite activities. Imagine relying on food banks to feed your family. These are the everyday realities of economic uncertainty. The constant worry, the feeling of being trapped. Financial stress morphs into emotional distress. It manifests as anxiety, depression, insomnia. Mental health care often falls by the wayside. The stigma prevents people from seeking help, so they suffer in silence, their pain invisible. Beyond the breaking point, the dark side of economic despair. Now, it's important to talk about the elephant in the room, the darkest consequence of this economic and mental health crisis: suicide. It's a difficult topic, but one that can't be ignored. Because when people feel hopeless, when they see no way out of their financial despair, when the weight of the world feels too heavy to bear, some tragically see suicide as their only option. And the statistics are alarming. Suicide rates have been steadily rising in Canada, particularly among men, and economic hardship is often a contributing factor. These are fathers who see no way to provide for their families, young people who feel crushed by student debt and a lack of job prospects, seniors who fear outliving their savings. These are lives cut short, families shattered, communities left reeling from preventable tragedies. And while suicide is a complex issue with no easy solutions, it's clear that the economic and political turmoil of recent years is exacerbating the problem. It's creating a perfect storm of despair, pushing some to the brink of hopelessness. And that's why it's crucial to talk about mental health, to destigmatize seeking help, and to ensure that resources are available to those who are struggling. Because behind every statistic, every heartbreaking story, there's a human life of immeasurable worth. We can't afford to lose sight of that, not for a single moment. Building financial firewalls, from individual savings to national self-sufficiency. All right, folks, we've covered some heavy stuff, but let's shift gears now and talk about solutions. Because while the challenges are real, so is the Canadian spirit of resilience and innovation. First up, tackling the economic anxieties head-on. Now, I'm not talking about some get-rich-quick scheme or relying on the government to magically fix everything. This is about individuals taking control of their own financial well-being and communities coming together to build a more resilient economic future. Think of it like building a financial firewall around your life. Start by shoring up your own finances. I know, budgeting isn't exactly the sexiest word in the English language, but it's essential. Track your spending, identify areas where you can cut back, and start building up an emergency fund. Think of it as your safety net, your peace of mind in a volatile world. And hey, while you're at it, consider diversifying your income streams. Maybe it's picking up a side hustle, freelancing your skills, or exploring online business opportunities. The more financial independence you have, the less power those external forces have over your well-being. Mental health, not a luxury, but a necessity in uncertain times. Now let's talk about mental health, because in times of stress and uncertainty, taking care of your mind is just as important as managing your money. And here's the good news. You don't need a fancy therapist or a prescription to start building mental resilience. Start by acknowledging that it's okay to not be okay. These are challenging times, and it's perfectly normal to feel anxious, stressed, or overwhelmed. Don't bottle it up. Talk to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, family member, or mental health professional. Remember, you're not alone in this. Millions of Canadians are going through similar struggles, and sharing your experiences can help lighten the load. And while you're at it, explore stress reduction techniques that work for you. Maybe it's mindfulness meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, or simply taking a break from the constant barrage of news and social media. Find what helps you unplug, de-stress, and recharge your mental batteries. Because when you're feeling grounded and centered, you're better equipped to handle whatever life throws your way. From anxiety to action, the power of community and civic engagement. Now here's where things get really interesting. See, all that anxiety, that frustration, that sense of wanting to do, it can be channeled into something positive and powerful. Civic engagement. Remember, a democracy is only as strong as the people who participate in it. So, get informed about the issues that matter most to you, whether it's trade policy, economic inequality, or mental health support. Attend town hall meetings, write to your elected officials, join grassroots organizations that align with your values, make your voice heard, not just through complaints, but through constructive dialogue and action. And here's the beauty of it. When you engage in your community, when you connect with like-minded individuals who are passionate about creating positive change, it not only strengthens your community, it combats that sense of isolation and helplessness that often accompanies uncertainty and fear. It's about reclaiming your power, not just as consumers or voters, but as active participants in shaping a more just, equitable, and resilient future for all Canadians. Weathering the storm the Canadian way. Look, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the political maneuvering to the economic anxieties to the very real mental health toll this situation is taking on Canadians. It's a lot to process, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But here's the thing about Canadians. You've got this incredible ability to come together in times of adversity. You've weathered storms before, faced down challenges with that signature blend of grit and grace. And that's what gives me hope. Because while the challenges are real, so is the Canadian spirit of resilience. That deep-seated belief in fairness, in looking out for one another, in building a better future for generations to come. This isn't just about surviving tough times. It's about emerging from them stronger, more united, and more determined than ever to build a Canada that works for everyone. And that starts with recognizing that the personal is political, and the economic is inherently emotional. It's about having those tough conversations about mental health, about financial anxiety, about the future we want to create together. It's about supporting each other, not just with words, but with action. Because when Canadians come together, when they tap into that collective spirit of compassion and determination, they can overcome even the most daunting challenges. A call to action. From coast to coast, a nation united. So here's the call to action, folks. Don't let anxiety paralyze you. Let it fuel you. Take control of your own financial well-being, build up those mental resilience muscles, and most importantly, get engaged. Talk to your neighbors, connect with your communities, and make your voices heard. Support businesses that share your values, advocate for policies that promote economic fairness and mental health support, and remind your elected officials that they work for you. Remember, a nation isn't just a collection of individuals, it's a tapestry, woven together by shared values, common goals, and a belief in something bigger than ourselves. And right now, that tapestry needs a little mending. It needs the steady hands and compassionate hearts of Canadians from coast to coast, working together to repair the frayed edges, to strengthen the fabric, to ensure that the Canada of tomorrow is even more just, equitable, and prosperous than the Canada of today. It's a tall order, no doubt. But if there's one group of people who can rise to the challenge, It's Canadians. Because when it comes to facing adversity with courage, compassion, and a healthy dose of that signature Canadian spirit, well, you've got that down to a science, eh? So let's get to work. The future of Canada depends on it.